Yes, good afternoon, everybody. I am Shinichi Kihara from METI, and first of all, I'm very honored to join this very exciting discussion today, together with Mr. Zettermeyer. Greetings, welcome to Tokyo. Yes, the topic of accelerating decarbonization in emerging and developing countries is a very, very important subject. In order to reach global carbon neutrality, all countries need to reach carbon neutrality, regardless of developed or developing countries or producing or consuming countries. So that's why, as a G7 presidency this year, we highlighted this approach to the outer G7 countries, and also G20 handle this. But and COP28 is coming soon. However, we do see some frustration between the north and south, or the developed and developing countries about this, how we reach global decarbonization. So this is a very, very important issue. And thank you for your very comprehensive presentation, very logical, very comprehensive. And I do agree on your view about the trade instruments are not enough. Plugging carbon leakage is important. However, Climate Club or CBAM idea will not have incentive for outside country to adopt ambitious policy unless the club or the inside market is substantially large enough, and unless the outside country feels bad, if not, they're in. But if the club is so small, then they will simply ignore and they enjoy the outside dirty economy world. So that's kind of, so it's conditional, I think. And also the conditional climate finance. So I think this is a very important tool, and I agree that strong policy commitment towards carbon neutral by the emerging country, or strong ownership by the receiving country is very important. So not only building the very beautiful finance structure, but we need to really pull in the recipient country. And I would like just introduce some small information about our experience in Asia. So again, the communication with the emerging country, first the government is very important, because in many cases, the priority of the emerging country is threefold. They care, of course, about the carbon neutral, but they care energy security and economic growth, so the trilemma. And nobody wants to sacrifice one for the other. So this is very important starting point. And we also need to understand that the emerging country energy transition pathways, they're very different. So this is a power generation mix of a developed country. So you can see the power generation demand is already becoming flat. So it's not for the developed countries. It's only a matter of choice of the options. So switch from coal to gradually to natural gas and start renewable energy gradually. So you can say you have the fixed demand, and you are thinking of how to fill that demand. But the power generation of the developing country, emerging country, the top left is ASEAN 10 average. So completely different graph. It's just simply growing a lot, twice, doubling in 10 years, 20 years. So this is the reality. So they have to fill this growing demand. So right now, the ASEAN 10, it's 1/3 each is coal, gas, and hydro. And that's how they build. And they are starting to build renewable energy capacity. But that's not enough to really manage the growing demand. And also the power generation, renewable energy potential is pretty different. North Europe is very rich wind resource is there. It's a very red area. But Southeast Asia is actually a surprisingly weak wind potential. Similarly, solar potential. logical condition. So that's how we see. And also, so that's why in case of Japan, we are building this Asia Zero Emission Community initiative to help support transition in Asian countries. And we try to engage with each government and try to understand each country's different situation, different strategy, energy strategy, roadmap. And then we will provide necessary finance support, technology support, and also human resource support, or help supporting developing policy or regulation, that kind of support. So this is the basic idea. And when we talk about the Asian transition, the concept of transition is very, very important. This is a graph by IEA, how to reach from business as usual on the top to net zero in the bottom. The orange part is the make clean project, build clean project. This is like building renewable energy, already zero emission project. And on the top, the red band is the retire dirty early. So this is retiring coal fire plant. But in the middle is a thick yellow band, which is make dirty cleaner. So this is about energy efficiency, better heat management, whatever thing you can do today. Even if you cannot flip to zero, there's many emission reduction path that you can choose. And that actually define the scope and speed of the transition. So, so these concepts are very important. So we also highlight the role of transition finance. So it's hard to jump to net zero today, but we want to build a framework for the finance sector to help make this transition. So there needs to be a lot of guidance and also roadmap for each sector. That's how we are developing in Japan, and also trying to set up this transition finance framework in Asia. We have a transition finance study group in Asia consisting of many Asian banks, governments, all that in this region. So that's I shall stop here now. So some perspectives from the Asia angle on your presentation today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kihara. Dr. Dettmer, would you like to respond to his comment?
No, thank you. I basically agree, particularly with the point that in mainly developing countries, the jump from coal to renewables is not immediate, right? And so, particularly countries that have gas, obviously should use it for that transition. So I fully agree that we need to put more emphasis on that, and that will also make it, I think, more palatable for those countries to, like you said, I mean, to the extent that we can ameliorate the trade-offs, it's a good idea.
Thank you. Yes, we'd like to move on the question and answer session. If you have any questions for the speaker, please enter them via a button at the bottom of the screen. Okay, and I try to pick up the first questions. Yes, Dr. Dettmer, can you see the question here? And the first question that in Japan, we have institutions like JBIC and JICA that finance decarbonization projects in the developing countries. How they co-finance with the EU? Yes, I think that these entities are very powerful, and they are giving the huge amount of money for the which includes the decarbonization project. So what do you think about the collaboration with JBIC and JICA?
Yes, I think it's important that we collaborate on this, both through multilateral institutions, but also through, both through bilateral institutions, but
yes,
particularly also through multilateral institutions. So the more we can do on this, the better. No? On our side, we have EIB as the lending arm of the EU. It is involved in 2 of these JETPs at least, maybe more. And then, of course, we have the multilaterals such as the Asian Development Bank and the World Bank.
Yes, thank you very much. I'd like to ask that question: that the ADB or the IMF or the World Bank or some IFCs, such as the international organization, could give the initiative to the collecting the fund or finances.
Yes, so I think that these organizations are super important, partly because they are important sources of finance, but more importantly because they are, I think, a politically legitimate way of ensuring that even larger financial support that comes directly from the rich countries is well spent, right? So they have to, if not identify the decarbonization projects themselves, they have to identify the criteria and maybe figure out frameworks that can be applied by local financial institutions to identify those projects. And then, obviously, of particular importance is the policy frameworks. So I used to work at the IMF. The IMF now has a facility called the Resilience and Sustainability Trust, which for the first time does long-term lending to countries that are not necessarily all low-income countries to address future climate problems. And the reason why the IMF is legitimately in there, I think, is because many of these frameworks have to do with fiscal policy, which is what the IMF is good at. No? So on the route to carbon pricing, the first thing you have to do is to reform energy subsidies and essentially phase out subsidies for fossil fuels. And this is the type of thing that the fund has been doing for a long time. So that's the IMF's role. And then, obviously, the specific decarbonization policies beyond these general fiscal principles have to be set by institutions like ADB or the World Bank.
Okay, thank you very much. Allow me one more thing, one more question about that topic. As you know, the decarbonization is a worldwide discussion, and COP is a good opportunity to discuss about and collect the data. So which institution or which occasion is appropriate to monitor the developing countries' decarbonization project and collecting the data and ask the G7 or the G20s to finance them?
So I think that if one pursues this country platform approach, what one needs is, and what has in fact started to happen in the JETPs that we have seen, is a dedicated structure for a particular JETP, right? So the decarbonization plan needs to be developed by the country itself, in negotiation with the funders. And then you need a dedicated government institution to implement it. And that government institution in turn has to be in a dialogue with, in my view, probably a multilateral development bank that has the expertise to, both provide technical assistance for the implementation of the plan, but also to ensure that the policies that were promised are actually implemented. And of course, there's a long history with conditional lending that in this case I think can be usefully applied to that particular problem. But I think fundamentally the monitoring and steering structure needs to be a dedicated structure in the country itself.
Okay, thank you very much for your answer. Okay, so we'd like to move on to the next question. Do you think the carbon pricing in the EU is an effective approach? Of course, effective. And can it be applied to the countries in Africa as well? Is there
So-
any difficulties? Yes.
So yeah, I mean, I think the emissions trading systems are an effective and an important approach. They exist in the EU for some time. They have not been very binding so far. So we have had a very long phase of, if you like, phasing in a meaningful carbon price, because initially allowances were given for free. But you can argue that even though they did not force firms into much action because they got the allowances for free, the expectation that these allowances would be tightened at some point may have started to influence investment plans early on. Japan, I think, is in a similar situation where an emissions trading system will be introduced. It's not there yet, but again, the expectation hopefully has some effect on investment. So I do think it's important. Now, can it be done in developing countries? I think in principle it can, right? So a country like South Africa is sophisticated enough to do something like this. There is, of course, an issue of what you spend limited political capital on. And maybe limited administrative capacity. And perhaps for some developing countries, a direct plan to decarbonize the power sectors may be even more effective than an ETS. But having said that, they can be built in parallel.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, last question is, what is the impression about the TCFD? Yes, yes. After picking up this question, I'd like to ask both of you the final comment message. So the question that TCFD is, yes, Japan taking a great initiative about TCFD, and we held TCFD summit this month. So what do you think about the TCFD initiative in the worldwide, and if you have any information about the Japanese the efforts?
Yes. Do you want to say a little bit of what transpired?
Yes, Japan has been hosting this TCFD summit every year, and I think the number of the companies who are aligned to TCFD initiatives is very, very big. It's like 1,000 countries. So we are leading 1,000 companies. So we're kind of leading this transparency effort. So yes, this is definitely important part of the transition in the promoting transition in the private sector, and we will lead this initiative onward. Yes.
Yeah. So I agree. I mean, it's critical because it enables some process to be going, which may be self-enforcing, right? So if you understand as an equity investor what the plans of companies are, you can then assess whether they deal appropriately with risks. And that will then determine cost of capital and things like this. So I think transparency standards is a really important part of the mix.
Okay, thank you very much. Actually, the private companies, the cooperation and the initiative would be the important and appreciated. Okay, so can I ask Mr. Kihara, your final comments or remarks?
Yes, thank you very much. It was very exciting to join this session. So I think this issue of the decarbonizing emerging and developing country is a very important and ongoing topic. We will probably have a good discussion in COP. And also next year will be G7 Italy. So probably we will focus on, this year was G7 Japan, so we highlighted Asia, but probably next year perhaps Africa. So we will do maybe by region.
Yes.
So thank you very much for this very insightful conversation, and I look forward to keep updating. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you for doing a great job leading the G7.
Yes. You have any further comments?
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for both of you, the excellent presentation and comments. Now it's time to close the seminar. And thank you very much for your participation in our special seminar today. Have a good day.